We welcome you to our continuing coverage of the Philadelphia Eagles Training Camp 2020, presented by Lincoln Financial Group. No, it's not. It's presented by, I always say the wrong thing. You know that, Fran? Dave Spadaro here.
The dog day, the dog days.
Oh, my gosh. It is really quite amazing to me. Well, you know, look, we're at the NovaCare Complex, and we're going to start with this, okay? Jason Kelce, who on Friday rocked the Philadelphia Flyers jersey today in honor of the late Kobe Bryant, wearing the Kobe Bryant Lower Merion High School jersey. Kobe Bryant would have been 42 years old today, Fran. And so Jason Kelce is paying homage.
It's a hot one out there today, and he wore the Flyers jersey
jersey.
Friday, underneath the jersey. That was a smart move, saving that for Friday as opposed to today, because I would imagine he probably lost like 10 pounds in water weight last Friday. He would have lost another 20 today.
So we are at the NovaCare Complex. I'm Dave Spadaro. He's Fran Duffy. This is our continuing coverage of Philadelphia Eagles Training Camp 2020, presented by Independence Blue Cross. Sorry for that faux pas, everybody. Had a day off. Enjoyed it. How'd you do on Saturday, Fran?
It was a dad day. You know, got to spend time with the little one. Got to spend time with the wife. Did some yard work. It was good. How about you, man?
I did a long bicycle ride.
There we go.
So that was nice, and spent some time with some friends, and that was also very nice as we take a look at Carson Wentz. Now, Fran, on Friday, the Eagles you see are not in pads today, so this is going to be a lighter practice. I spoke to Doug Peterson a bit earlier. This week's practices will be a bit lighter, 5 days of practice all the way through Thursday. We'll be here each and every morning for you with coverage from Eagles Training Camp presented by Independence Blue Cross. And by the way, if you have the official Eagles app, you can go to that app and you can look at all of our different camera angles as we bring you basically the first 20 or 30 minutes of practice. But Fran, on Friday, I do want to talk about where we are in training camp. We are 3 weeks away from the regular season opener against the Washington football team. So the Eagles still trying to get that roster down, understand who's going to make the team, and then turn their attention to Washington. On Friday, they had the first scrimmage. What are some of the takeaways that you had, Fran?
You know, it was a really good day of work on Friday. You know, the offense made some plays, the defense made some plays. We saw some young guys get into the action. They had live tackling to the ground. It was a scrimmage kind of setting for, I would say, about an hour. It was like 35, 40 plays of scrimmage where they were moving the ball up and down the field. You had special teams plays weaved in. So, to me, the defensive line was absolutely, dominant, especially in the latter portions. They did a 2-minute drill late in the afternoon, the last period of practice, and I believe it was six sacks on 8 snaps for the D-line, which is a very impressive performance.
And so, asked this morning about that, and specifically kind of geared toward, was it Doug Peterson, the defensive line, looking so good, or are you concerned about the offensive line? He said he was not concerned about the offensive line. We all know that when you've got 2 new pieces up front, Jason Peters at right guard and Andre Dillard at left tackle, you are going to have some hiccups without all of that work in the spring to build chemistry and build some cohesiveness. As we take a look at Miles Sanders there, missing another practice here with that lower body injury. We are obviously going to keep our eyes on Miles, who is going to be such a huge part of the offense. And then we're going to talk about some of the running backs who are emerging, taking some reps. But, Fran, the offensive line, if Doug's not worried, I guess I got to tell you I'm not worried. But there is some work to do with that group.
Yeah, and he talked about, too, that this is usually the time of camp where the defense is usually ahead of the offense. And he made the analogy to baseball where, hitters are usually a little bit ahead of the pitchers early on. We've seen this kind of go in training camp over the course of our entire careers, right? I mean, you see that very early on. Almost all the time is that the defense will start out a little bit ahead of the offense, and the offense gradually starts to get things going. So, Friday, one of those days where the defense certainly had the majority of the big plays.
All right, let's talk about the defense. What really impresses me when I watch this defense, and it was an emphasis in the offseason, adding speed. And when you see this group, to me, Fran, there are 2 real strengths on defense. The line, which you talked about, depth, a lot of speed, a lot of power. And then the defensive backfield. Now, with Slay, with Jalen Mills, who looks like a natural safety. You don't see, at least at this point, communication foibles. You don't see, certainly on Friday, missed tackles, the first day of tackling. You see a lot of versatility. And I wonder how often the Eagles will play nickel and dime this year and emphasize what they have in the secondary.
Yeah, I mean, certainly the majority of the time, and that's what it was last year. That's what it'll continue to be. Is you'll see 5, 6 defensive backs out in the field, and the important part of that too, Dave, is that it's not going to be the same 5 or 6 guys every time. There's going to be a nice rotation, guys that can do all different kinds of things. So you're going to see combinations with, obviously Nickel Roby-Coleman in the slot, Jalen Mills in the slot. Will Parks in the slot. He had a good day on Friday. Had a couple nice tackles coming downhill. Kayvon Wallace, the rookie, doing some nice things every single day. He kind of shows up. So it's going to be really fun to be able to watch that secondary group. I agree. And that defensive line, you said one word, the power. That group really gets after. They've got the speed and the athleticism to be able to make plays. But you see power from Fletcher Cox, Malik Jackson, Brandon Graham. Josh Sweat had a nice sack in that 2-minute drill. All those guys show the ability to work through offensive linemen, not just here in the first week of camp, but throughout their NFL careers as well.
If you are just joining us, we welcome you to the NovaCare Complex. It is our continuing coverage of the 2020 Philadelphia Eagles training camp presented by Independence Blue Cross. I'm Insider Dave Spadaro along with Fran Duffy. And we have come your way here for the last week. We'll come your way through Thursday as well. Every morning, 10:30 a.m. Join us. A little behind-the-curtains look at the Philadelphia Eagles 2020. And we're talking about the secondary. We're talking about number 24, Darius Slay. Big play Slay, long arms. He has looked the part, Fran. I've asked this question. Who is the last great Eagles cornerback?
Great question.
Now, look, a lot of people say Asante Samuel. I would not call him great. He was a Pro Bowl player.
Yep.
Took the football away a lot. Do we go all the way back to Troy Vincent?
Troy Vincent. That was the name I was going to bring up. I mean, and if you don't go there, it's Eric Allen, right? I mean, it's been a while. They've had good corners. They've had really good corners. But to have a guy of Slay's talent, and also what stood out to me too, Dave, is you hear Avonte Maddox talk about his relationship with Darius Slay and the mentorship that he's put in. I've seen him working on the sideline, not just with the young DBs, but with the young receivers. Hey, if I do this in the jam, this is how you try and beat me. If I do this, try and beat me this way. Trying to coach those young receivers up. I've been really impressed with a lot of the things he's done outside the lines on the field as opposed to between the lines as well.
Let's talk about more of what we've seen here, Fran, as we watch the Eagles working in the warm-up period here, the special teams period. Jeff Stoutland's got some work to do up front, not only with the starting 5, but who develops for depth in 2020. You lose Big V in free agency. He's that valuable swing tackle. Brandon Brooks not here. We know it's going to be Dillard, Andre Dillard, the 2019 first-round draft pick, who has been up and down in this camp. Very athletic, bigger, stronger. He starts at left tackle. Jason Peters goes to right guard. Isaac Seumalo, Jason Kelsey, Lane Johnson. Who are your, I would say Matt Pryor's your 6th guy. Who's your 7, 8, 9 offensive lineman?
Yeah. I mean, you've got obviously the one guy that we saw on the screen there, and you see him lining up at left tackle right here, number 68, Jordan Mailata, a guy that has been developing here in Philadelphia for the last couple of years. I think fans know the story by now. Has never played football until he was drafted by the Eagles a couple of years ago. So still very much working towards trying to find that that role as a swing backup on the back end of the roster. But then you throw in guys like Jack Driscoll, who teammates and coaches alike have praised so far this summer. Nate Herbig, who has gotten reps both at right guard and at center. Those are the guys I feel like have the shot to be able to stick on the back end of this roster.
And then we've got Prince Tega,
yeah,
who's been playing at the tackle positions. It's just a shame that there's no preseason games, and everybody's saying the same thing, to really evaluate. And so the key here is get your 53 and have a really strong 16-man practice squad that you can count on, that you can develop. We saw last year how important it was, and the Eagles know, as the other 31 teams know as well, you better have a great group because you're going to need them during the course of the season.
No question. I think you would say the same thing about the receiver position as well. And the Eagles, obviously, the depth has been tested there over the last 18 months. We see a couple of guys off in the distance here. First of all, Travis Fulgham, the newest Eagle. He's number 6. We saw also wide receiver Jalen Reagor, number 18. Wide receiver Deontay Burnett, number 16. Both guys missed the scrimmage on Friday, and now are back on the field, which is certainly good to see.
But I think it's fair to say we've all been impressed with Jalen Reagor.
All three of the rookies, right? They've all had their days, and they've all looked really good. And you know what? One of the things that stood out to me, this guy Carson Wentz here has shown faith in these young guys. You'll see him get rid of the ball a little bit earlier than you would think. He's showing trust in Jalen Reagor outside the numbers, between the numbers in the middle of the field. He made outstanding throws with anticipation to J.J. Arcega-Whiteside in the scrimmage. J.J. coming up with some huge catches.
Wanted to talk about him. Yep.
John Hightower has made big catches where, again, the ball's coming out early. He's letting those guys go make plays. And to me, like, showing that trust with no spring, no summer workouts for this team, I think is a really good sign moving forward.
If there has been criticism of Carson from the fan base, from the media, it's that at times he's held the football too long, trying to make plays. But the fact that he is, as you say, trusting receivers, a really, really good sign. Is Jake Elliott, the operation back in all together with Rick Lovato, the Pro Bowl long snapper, Cameron Johnston, the holder / punter, and Jake Elliott. I will knock on wood when I say this, Fran. I have not seen him miss a kick throughout this camp. Now,
did you see the 57-yarder?
57-yarder.
He hit the other
Boomed
guy?
it, yeah.
Right through the upright.
Yeah.
And what was cool about that was the coaches on both sides of the scrimmage were both yelling at Jake like, hey, great one after that. I mean, that's exactly, the whole team's got to be excited after that one.
And you know what else I'll tell you that's very cool? I was out early at practice the other day, and I was watching Connor Barwin, former Eagles Pro Bowl linebacker, now with the personnel department, and he was helping the athletic trainers organize the water bottles. Okay? I see people from the personnel department holding cameras.
Yep.
I see people from the strength and conditioning staff helping in the laundry room. And because there are so many numbers who would normally be here who aren't here, ball boys, assistants, etc. Everybody is multitasking, including our own David Sullivan today, who was usually in the control room, and now he's on the high camera shot. So with only I think the number is something like 176 people allowed at the NovaCare complex in tiers 1, 2, and 3, you got to multitask. You got to pick up the slack, and everybody's happy to do that.
We've talked about the importance of versatility for all of the players, that have to be able to come on and do a lot of different things, how important that will be this year in the times of COVID-19. It's the full building. Everybody's got to be able to chip in. The more you can do, as they say, when it comes to, especially as we get closer to cut day.
All right, let's talk a little bit about, as we watch Carson Wentz take some throws here, take some snaps, and Nate Sudfeld looking on, and Jalen Hurts walking into the picture. Fran, what do the Eagles do with Jalen Hurts? Active on game day, not active on game day? Do they put a package in for him? Because he would add a threat, right? Maybe are able to keep all three quarterbacks active on game days and have some at some point in the season, maybe you mix a little Jalen Hurts in there.
Yeah, we haven't seen anything like that, and so to me, it's important for all these guys to say, all right, let's let him be a quarterback, right? Let's let him come in, and you see him work down in the red zone and different things, and you think, oh, are they going to throw some kind of specialty plays in there? No, he's executing the offense, which at this point in his career is important, and we'll see if that evolves over the course of this his rookie season, and see if they try and find other ways to get him involved. But as of this point, he's the number 3 quarterback. Nate Sudfeld got the large majority of the reps with the second team on Friday, even got a series with the first team unit as well.
Yeah, which I think is important for Nate, because when he's working with the second team going against the first team defense, there just isn't a whole lot open down the field. And so people go, well, Nate, you got to throw it down the field. Well, everybody's covered.
Yeah.
So when you work with the number ones, you get a chance to have some receivers create separation. At the receiver position, as we see Marcus Green there returning punts, and the Eagles working on special teams, we still are without Alshon Jeffrey at practice. He's still on the physically unable to perform list. Desean Jackson has looked like Desean Jackson.
Yep.
I think that Greg Ward has looked better, more comfortable, faster, knows his way around. There's no surprise there with Greg Ward. J.J. Arcega-Whiteside, you mentioned him earlier. Is he a better J.J. Arcega-Whiteside now than he was a year ago?
Yeah, I mean, he had like 8 catches for over 100 yards in that Week 3 preseason game against Baltimore. And so we saw flashes last year, and then he's talked about this offseason how, the injury kind of hampered him a little bit, and he just did not meet his own expectations during the regular season. I think we've seen a guy who moves a little bit better. He's made some great catches. I mentioned he had a couple of great ones from Carson Wentz in the scrimmage last week where, one, he was diving along the sideline, got both feet in bounds, great throw, great catch from JJ, and then another one on the very next play. It was kind of a jump ball, and it looked like him at Stanford. Him going up and over both Avonte Maddox and Rodney McLeod were both in the area. So you kind of saw a little bit of everything from JJ on that play. It's just been great to be able to see him now healthy back in the lineup and working with the first team.
And when he spoke to the media last week, Fran, he really owned it that he just wasn't good enough last year. And so he really challenged himself. And he'll be part of my Eagles Insider podcast, which will drop tomorrow. His workout routine in the offseason was ridiculous. It was literally 6 hours a day. And you see that all of that hard work has really paid off for JJ Arcega-Whiteside. It's Sunday. Good morning, everybody. Welcome to the NovaCare Complex. I'm Eagles Insider Dave Spadaro, along with Fran Duffy. Our continuing coverage of Eagles Training Camp 2020 presented by Independence Blue Cross. And the Eagles 3 weeks away from the regular season opener at the Washington football team. One thing I asked Doug today in our one-on-one, which will also be part of the podcast, we know that there won't be fans at FedEx Field, Fran, for that opener. And a lot of people say, hey, players, how will you replicate the energy? How will you, without the crowd, how you feed, how do you get that next level? And I said to Doug, have you seen it here in these practices? And he said it's something that he's been watching. He felt it was very apparent and present on Friday.
Yep.
But it certainly is a challenge for the players and the coaches.
It's a great question, and it's a great thing to talk about. Honestly, I was, for the scrimmage on Friday, I sat in the bleachers along the defensive sideline. Those guys never stopped. It was a game day atmosphere.
The defensive guys have been chattering
nonstop.
Very much like something I noticed from the Seattle Seahawks during the Legion of Boom days. They're so into it. They're so vocal. I think that really builds a lot of great camaraderie and chemistry. And the defense, as we've said, Fran, they've looked terrific.
Yeah, and honestly, that builds it up not just on the defensive side, but also on the offensive side because, if the defense, they start chirping at an offensive player, well, now you've got offensive guys trying to come to their teammates' defense, and it's all playful, it's all good, but it's been really good to just see that level of urgency, that level of energy matched by both sides.
We're taking a look at the defensive line here, so let's talk a little bit about the defensive end position. Derek Barnett, left of your screen, still sidelined with that lower body injury. Fran, let's say the Eagles keep, 5 defensive ends? We've got, hopefully, Barnett for the opener, Derek and Brandon Graham, Vinny Curry, Josh Sweat. That's 4.
Yep.
Who's your 5th?
It's interesting, man. It's what these next couple of weeks are going to be, so important to be able to watch because, you've got certainly Jannard Avery, who the Eagles traded for last season rather. You've got Sharif Miller, who was a 4th-round pick. A lot of young guys as well along the course of that roster that are going to be competing, for that job. You throw in Joe Ostman. You've got the young kid Matt Leo, who's got the roster exemption. It's going to be a really interesting few weeks. We talk about just the step that Josh Sweat has made and how he's gotten better. It's going to be a fun competition over the next couple weeks.
Kayvon Wallace is showing up in training camp pretty much every day.
Him and 54, both guys.
Sean Bradley is showing up in training camp. The linebackers, Fran, big question mark. Who are they?
Yep.
Not heralded, very fast. Sean Bradley is, for a kid who's been on the football field literally for 4 weeks here?
Yep.
He makes plays in camp.
Every day he's showing up, whether it's like a tackle for loss in the backfield, an interception, every day seems to be making plays. And, it's going to be interesting just to watch because, that rotation with that first team, you've got Nate Gary there, who obviously is pretty established, has been here for the last couple of years. They certainly saw an uptick in his production defensively last year. But you see Duke Riley, you see TJ Edwards, those guys all rotating in. It's going to be a very interesting group. And you can say that about a couple of groups here, but linebacker in particular because of the guys that you're looking for to play a significant amount of snaps.
And there's a guy who is just itching to play this year. Desean Jackson with new wide receivers coach Aaron Moorhead. Fran, if the Eagles can keep Desean healthy, oh my gosh, what an impact. We saw it in the opener last year. He still runs faster than everybody on the field. He still catches the football effortlessly, and he's playing with great joy. He missed it so much last year.
Yep. The route running to me over the last 3 or 4 years with Desean Jackson has been what's really kind of opened his game up. And, you see that here in camp. You see him, the way he's able to create separation, not just only with pure speed, but with technique as well. Has just been really, really impressive to be able to watch.
Now, we promised we'd talk a little bit about the running backs with Miles Sanders sidelined, with Boston Scott sidelined. Corey Clement has taken much of the first-team reps. And then, Fran, I got to tell you, Elijah Holyfield,
Yep.
Mike Warren, Adrian Killens, they've all had their moments.
They've all had their moments, especially with those two guys on the sideline. We've gotten to see Holyfield and Clement and all those guys kind of worked in with the first-team unit, which has been good.
Well, we are right around the corner here at the opener.
I know.
It's just, as Doug said this morning, it is just weird. But it's reality, and I think the teams that handle it the best will be the teams that win the most.
You mentioned Connor Barwin earlier working.
Yep.
He's working with the offensive line. You see him running
Yeah,
back with the offensive line.
When he stands behind the offensive line, I feel like he's looking at the D-line. Again, that versatility, everybody's helping each other out. Carson Wentz, with Press Taylor there. I think that's Press.
It looks like Press. It's going to be a hot one out there today. I think it's going to be the hottest day of camp so far.
It is humid this morning. It's been beautiful so far. We're at the NovaCare Complex. It's our inside look at Eagles Training Camp 2020 presented by Independence Blue Cross. Dave Spadero, along with Fran Duffy. We will come your way each morning through Thursday this week. And we're seeing the Eagles break the huddle.
Like Boston Scott.
Boston Scott back
today.
on the field. Yeah, that's
Good.
great to see.
Yep.
Taking reps with the ones and getting his handoff. There you go, Boston Scott. Fran, I got to tell you, I think I was standing next to you first day of camp. I looked out there and go, who is that guy out there? He's really small. And he was so Boston Scott because I just forgot how
small he is.
How small he is.
But he's dynamic.
Yeah.
He's fun to watch. And he made plays. I remember his first summer down with the New Orleans Saints, making plays in every preseason game. Was just one of those guys that I feel like that fan base fell in love with. He tried to stick on their practice squad. The Eagles plucked him. Great job by the pro scouting department.
Defensive line here, Fran, explain the drill.
They're working on their get-off, and you can see that when those guys line up, they'll put their hand in the ground. They're looking at that football on a stick there, and as soon as they see that first movement, they are trained to get upfield as fast as possible. You see how they have the pads kind of aligned there. They want them getting into the backfield and making that turn to get to the quarterback, and they're coaching up, violently ripping those arms through to get home to the quarterback.
And then we've got linebackers working with the big medicine ball, and that's just a leverage push, get off a block, and get to the football drill.
Yep, they're trying to make sure you're attacking that block with your eyes up, and then you're trying to find the football. So obviously those linebackers, you're dealing with a lot of traffic inside. So try to deal with contact, and now get your eyes back and look and try and find the football. It's a good drill.
More from the D-line here. We have Sharif.
Yeah, it looks like Sharif outside. Is that Sweat? Yep.
Sweat, yeah.
Josh Sweat just looks the part. He looks really good.
We don't talk a lot about Josh Sweat, but he did have a good contribution last year.
Yep.
Finally healthy. You got to believe that that knee injury that he suffered in high school is just a thing of the past. Look for big things from Josh Sweat. That would be so awesome for this defense.
Huge. He had that first sack. We mentioned that 2-minute drill. He had the first sack for the starters on defense to kind of kick things off. And you just kind of saw the suddenness, the explosive first step to get off the ball and get home quickly. Yeah, if he takes that next step, especially not knowing, hopefully that Derek Barnett is able to get back into the lineup in week 1. But if he's able to take that next step, Josh Sweat, that is huge for this defense.
You saw a shot of the specialist there. If you've ever wondered what specialists do during practice,
sneak peek.
Yeah. Stand around and kick. They get in their kicks, and then they chill.
That's it. Be there working with Jannard Avery.
BG, the Energizer Bunny, has yet to make a Pro Bowl, has yet to have 10 sacks in a season. 2 lofty individual goals in 2020 for number 55.
Has also yet to take a Veterans Day off. One of the few guys to.
That's a great point.
Yeah.
Great point.
He loves to practice, man. Malik Jackson, number 97, had a great day the other day.
You know, he really did. And we had talked, he and I, and he was talking about trusting his foot. And I thought that Friday was one of those days where you get over the hump because he did look good. He planted his foot. As we see Adrian Killens. Oh, I'm sorry, that's Boston Scott.
Yep.
Also, actually, Adrian Killens is only 171.
Small.
Really dynamic player. Great in space. Can he withstand the punishment in the NFL?
Taking it back to Malik Jackson real quick. He had like sometimes when you're watching practice, like, and you see a sack, it can be tough to figure out who had that one. All the media kind of looks around and says, hey, was that Fletcher? Was that this guy? Was that guy? Malik had a couple on Friday where there was no question. That was Malik Jackson had the sack just because he got into the backfield so fast. People forget that he was one of the best defensive linemen in football just a few years ago. When he was in Denver, he was a linchpin of that Super Bowl defense. We're talking 3 years ago now at this point, 4 years ago. Not that long ago. He's a very disruptive, dynamic player. Could do a lot of different things.
Love this defensive line drill here. And we do think that the D-line will be a major strong point for the Philadelphia Eagles in 2020. Fletcher Cox leading the way. Ooh. Get him, big boy.
This is good for a lot of these guys in the D-line because you'll see a lot of double teams and having to work through it. Even like running backs in the backfield, different chips. You got to be able to string multiple pass rush moves together, gain ground as you're attacking a block. All those things they're trying to teach here is don't stop your feet as you're trying to defeat this block. Get downhill as fast as possible.
Get your hands tight.
Yep.
Gain your leverage and rip.
Honestly, a lot of the same things that Aaron Moorhead is trying to coach these receivers here, right? You're trying to gain ground. You're trying to make sure you're not stopping your feet, beating the jam, press coverage. The wide receiver position in the defensive line, a lot of similarities in terms of what they're asked to do, even though much different body types.
I want to keep it on here until we see Desean Jackson. I just think Desean is so natural at what he does. Let's see him get this release. Didn't use the hands. Sean, I'm not sure it really has to use the hands a lot.
No, he does not. He's so hard to get a hand on. Fulgham's a big kid. Old Dominion.
Yeah, what's his story, Fran?
So he's from Old Dominion, 6th round pick, I believe, for the Detroit Lions a couple years ago. Big kid. He can go up and get it, but he's not a stiff either. He can run a little bit. I watched him coming out of college. A really interesting player. I was surprised that he was available, honestly, because he's a player that showed some promise early in his NFL career.
We take a look at Fletcher Cox. Little mobility drill.
He looks healthy, doesn't he?
Yeah, he looks great. 300 and what is he? 330 pounds?
Whatever it is, he carries it well.
Incredible mobility, power, speed, explosiveness.
Avery should look good in this drill. You're trying to see the athleticism and the bend here, the flexibility, and he's got that in spades. Out of the way a little bit.
All right, let's see Malik. As we get close to the end of our coverage here before the Eagles get into their formations.
This is a big one. Yep. The second and third pads, they have the sharpest angles, so you kind of can really see that flexibility there.
I'm Dave Spadaro along with Fran Duffy, and this is our continuing coverage of Eagles Training Camp 2020 presented by Independence Blue Cross here at the NovaCare Complex. We are 3 weeks away, look at BG, from the season opener against the Washington football team. And each morning through Thursday of this week, Joe Osman really showing his athletic ability. We will come your way as we pull back the curtain and show you some of this Philadelphia Eagles 2020 team. And that will do it for today's coverage. Everybody, for Fran Duffy, I'm Dave Spadaro, Eagles Insider. Thanks so much for joining us. Make sure you're back with us tomorrow at 10:30 and enjoy our continuing coverage on PhiladelphiaEagles.com, our official team app, and our social media channels. Everyone, have yourselves a great Eagles Sunday. And fly, Eagles, fly, guys. We are only 3 weeks away from Washington and the regular season.